Afternoon, everybody. It's Amadeus and Jim here. And Amadeus, last night, a lot of action in baseball and Monday Night Football. Observations from you, my friend, on what happened last night.
Yeah, so the Cowboys bounced back with a big
Mm-hmm.
win there over the Chargers, and yeah, funny enough, we were talking about how Herbert was talking that was their statement game when
Mm-hmm.
really they should be focused on this week's game in Kansas City as their statement
Mm-hmm.
game. So we'll have to see how the Chargers respond there, but yeah, definitely. I see nothing wrong really with the Cowboys. They got their bounce back against a good team there. And then in the MLB, just the Rangers and the Phillies just cleaning up.
Just keep on keeping on. Again, I think, to me anyway, the most impressive part of last night for the Cowboys uh, is their defense. They continue to play really strong defense, and that, as you say, my friend, defense wins championships, and it's certainly a good opportunity for the Cowboys to keep playing. And Dak is doing what Dak normally does, and that's trying to keep from making mistakes and not managing games well, and so he had that going for him too. And you're right, as far as Herbert is concerned, they didn't win that game. It's a statement game. So if they're going to have a statement game, the game against the Chiefs is probably a good one for that. So we'll see how that plays out. Mainly in baseball. Now, I think we're going to find out something very interesting. In 2019, I had covered the World Series between the Nationals and the Rain. I'm sorry, the Nationals and Rangers, the Nationals and the Astros. Uh, and it was the only World Series in the last 100 years where the away team won all the games, and neither team won a single home game. I don't think that's going to be the case for Texas with regard to Houston. I mean, Houston was terrible at home this year, with a sub 500 record. I don't think Texas is going to spit the bit at home against a very good Astros team, but I just don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah, this Texas team has been just crushing it through the entire
Mm-hmm.
playoffs. As you touched on, a lot of it has to do with Bruce Bochy and his
Right.
management style. Clearly, I believe you said he was 15-0 in his last 15 playoff games.
Yep.
Make that 16-0 after last
Mm-hmm.
night, but.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see how the Astros respond here, losing both games at home. But obviously, it's not the end of the world. It's not a far travel for them here, and they did have a very good road record. They actually had a
Yeah.
losing record at home this season. So yeah, it'll be all up to them. But it's funny because both of these pitchers we have on the mound for tomorrow. So
Mm-hmm.
I believe it's Javier and
Mm-hmm.
Scherzer, right?
Right.
So yeah, it's funny because the last time each of these guys went against the other team, they got blown up for a ton of
Mm-hmm.
runs. So that's probably why the total is 9 in this game. But
Mm-hmm.
definitely going to be an interesting playoffs here.
I will be interested, as someone who saw a lot of Max Scherzer. Max Max mistakes were, he gave up 1 run home, 1 run home runs. That was Max's, bugaboo from a standpoint of he would, which didn't really normally bother him because if there wasn't anybody on base and just you had got 1 run, then the team was able to claw back on all of that. But I will, Max is a guy who prides himself in being able to go deep into games, and I want to see. I mean, we saw Verlander the other night, have a great first inning and then problems in the second inning. So I'll be curious to see Max coming off an injury, and there wasn't really an opportunity for him to do a warm up start, which is normally what you would do whenever you come out of an injury. You'd want to go and play a game, with one of the minor league teams and just get your bearings about you. And so That being said, I mean Max is a a Cy Young Hall of Fame type pitcher, so if anybody understands game action, then it would be him. But we'll see. We'll see how prepared he is for that stepping back on the bump tomorrow night, and then of course the Phillies just keep doing what the Phillies do, and that's win in October.
Yeah, pretty much. It looks like it's lining up to be a Rangers Phillies World Series, but we will have to see. That's a reason we play the games.
That's right. Honestly, I think that Fox would be good with a Phillies and Rangers World Series, or for that matter, an Astros and Phillies World Series. Anything but the Arizona Cardinals. I mean, the Arizona Diamondbacks. It has nothing to do except that the Phillies have a solid national following, and the Rangers and Astros. The It's more the Astros, right? Because everybody hates the Astros because of the cheating scandal that they had. So there's a lot of anti-Astro, you know, karma going on out there. So we'll see if they even make it
Well,
past Texas.
there you go. It wouldn't. So if the Diamondbacks make it, then you're saying Fox is hoping for the Astros in there because people will watch just to see the Diamondbacks beat
Yep.
them.
Now it doesn't matter. Fill in the name, beside the Astros. The Astros have become what the Raiders were at one point in the NFL, which was the most everybody hated the Raiders for a number of reasons, and then they lost that edge. But at the end of the day, that place has been taken. The bad guy place, the heel place, if you will, has been taken over by Houston. So we'll see how that plays out. But you got to win first, and right now they're not winning much. So we'll have to see how things go when they get back to Globe Life Stadium in Arlington. So we will see. We will definitely not let you down. Let's pop over to the Week 7 Power Rankings. This is from CBS Sports, and I'm just going to go down the first five, and then you can, if you would, comment on your thoughts about, are they correct in their placement, or what happens? Here we go. Top five: the Kansas City Chiefs in the number 1 spot, the Miami Dolphins in the number 2 spot, the Detroit Lions in the number 3 spot, the Niners in the 4 spot, the Eagles in the 5 spot.
Yeah, I don't see how the 49ers dropped to fourth because of one game that
Right.
they didn't match up well for. The Kansas City Chiefs are not the best team in the NFL. Their
Right.
defense is very good, but their offense has a problem this year. They're coming off the Super Bowl win. I don't think they're going back to the Super Bowl. Not saying the dynasty's dead. I'm sure they're going to
Right.
be
Sure.
a great team once again next year, but I feel like this is a retooling season for them.
Right.
They need to figure out the wide receiver situation, and until they get some consistency in their offense, obviously, they also lost Bienema in the offseason,
Sure.
which is definitely affecting the offense just as much as the lack of weapons. But yeah, right now it's the defense is carrying this team.
Well, I still think that they're the best team in the NFC. I'm talking about now the 49ers. You talked about the Niners.
Yeah.
I don't see in the AFC. I don't see how you rank the Dolphins at number 2 and Kansas City at number 1. I mean, because to me, the Dolphins right now, that's today, not a week from now. Who knows? But today, if the Dolphins were to play the Chiefs, I'd have to think that the Dolphins would be the favorites.
Yeah, you would think so, right? And
Yeah,
they do play each other, I believe, in Germany that game.
they do.
The
Yeah.
Dolphins and the
Hmm.
Chiefs. That's the first Germany game, so we're gonna get
Of
to
the
find out.
season.
There's a lot of big matchups like that. Like the
Hmm.
Dolphins play the Eagles this week. I know the
Right.
Eagles have a matchup with the Niners in a few weeks.
Yep.
Obviously, we already said the Dolphins play Kansas City. So, yeah, there's going to be a ton of where we're going to find out a lot about these teams when they start going through the gauntlet.
Yeah. The truth will out, as the old saying goes. Right. Now, I'm okay with the Lions being in the same breath as I wouldn't put the Lions ahead of the Niners, but I would have them firmly ahead of the Eagles in the NFC. So I'm not. I would have flipped. I would not have had the. Well, I'd have had the Dolphins number one. I would have had the Niners number two, the Lions number three, KC number four. I'm okay with the Eagles being five. But I definitely would have swapped that top four up because to me, the Dolphins is the best team in the AFC right now, and the Niners are the best team in the NFC. So I definitely would have made those flips. Again, I have no problem with where the Eagles are at five. But anyway, that's for what it's worth, which is not much of anything. That's where I would have flipped them. But it is what it is. All right, here's our 6 through 10. Cowboys at Bills at 8, Ravens at 9, Browns in the number 10 spot.
Sorry, could you repeat those again? It was cutting out a bit during.
Of course, Jaguars. We have the Buffalo Bills. At number 9, we have the Ravens. At number 10, we have the Cleveland Browns. Again, we now are a team in the AFC. I'm not certain that's true. Um, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Browns. I think um, because for all intents and purposes, the Jaguars, Bills, Ravens could be wrong. I don't think that one of those teams is that much better than the others.
Yeah, definitely. There's a big grouping there. I would even drop the Lions into that. I definitely think the Lions are a top 10 team in the league, but I don't know if I'm ready to put them in the top five just yet. They've played very well. Specifically, their defense has been very good in these first few games, but I'd like to see them play a tougher matchup. Like the win against the Bucks was good, but the Bucks aren't as scary as some of
Mm-hmm.
these other teams, even though we love them to win their division there. And the Chiefs, when they beat them, they had a month or more than a month to prepare for that game. It was the first game of the season. You could even say that Kansas City wasn't quite ready for that game as well. They were dealing with the injury to Kelsey, so I would like to see the Lions play a better team before we put them in the top five. But yeah, 100%. All those teams you mentioned, the Browns, they're like the Chiefs. They have a problem with offense, but their defense is
Mm-hmm.
definitely top five defense in the league for sure. Might even be the best defense in the league right now. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and same with the Ravens and the Jaguars. That's I agree that's totally those are almost identical teams to me. In the sense where both are good defense and
Mm-hmm.
obviously the offensive styles are a little different, but
Yeah.
usually get a similar output with those two teams.
Right.
It's lean on the defense, and neither the Ravens or the Jags are the kind of team that's going to put up 30 plus 40 plus points on a weekly basis. It's going to happen like we saw the
Right.
Jags do last week, but yeah, they're not the kind where consistently they're like a Bills offense, and then
Mm-hmm.
obviously the Bills, I would probably put more closer to the top five or even like in the sixth spot there, just because the Bills have shown they have a very good defense and they do have a very good offense. Obviously, we've seen Josh Allen struggle in a few games, but I think when the offense is clicking, they have the potential to be as good as anybody in the league.
Yeah. No, I agree. We have a question which we will answer. Um, is this the week Ohio State gets exposed as the Big Ten's um, as I'm sorry. Is this the week that Ohio State gets exposed by Penn State as we see who really is among the top teams in the Big Ten? Um, I would say, I think Penn State, I think this is probably the best possible chance for Penn State to beat Ohio State that they've had in a number of years.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is the year Penn State is going to get the win. Obviously, it's going to be tough for them on the road here,
Right.
but I definitely think they have the team. They have a defense that's just as good, if not better, than the Ohio State defense.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably a little more consistency in the offense as well, just because their quarterback, is playing very well right now. Kyle McCord, I don't know. I'm still not sold on him for Ohio State, but yeah, I think Penn State can get it done for sure this weekend.
Here's a little aside for those of you who are fans of college football and maybe even the Ohio State Buckeyes. They call the stadium the Horseshoe, which they obviously kind of bowled in a bit at the other end. But I bet you didn't know that the the side that would be closest to campus, for those of you who, if you were to walk on the campus, actually is a dormitory. So imagine, if you will, your dorm room being literally inside of the Ohio, of the Horseshoe where the Ohio State Buckeyes play. So that might be a little loud when you're doing your studies on a Saturday afternoon.
You know what, Jim? You should
Yeah,
be at the game. Okay, you should be at the game, not studying on a Saturday afternoon while
that's
the
right.
game's going on.
Well,
So
if it's being played
perfect
it
dorm design.
right, if you're definitely if you're going to the game, you can't have a better dorm situation than that. You don't have to walk far to get there. You're actually physically, basically go through an outdoor, and you're actually in the corridors of the stadium. So that's kind of a cool thing, and from that standpoint. So we'll see. But I don't know what's the line on the game. Has it moved much, or where are we? I mean, it's early in the week. I get it, but um,
I thought that let me check quickly because I know the
okay,
line right now is 4.5 for Ohio State,
okay,
but
and they're at home, so it makes
I
sense.
think it actually opened up at 10 and might have been bet
Whoa,
quickly to 4. I have to
whoa,
double
whoa, whoa,
check
whoa,
on that
whoa!
though.
Penn State money's
Yeah,
coming in on Penn State.
yeah, it opened at 10 and it quickly got bet down to 4.5.
I wonder how much of that money's coming from Michigan. Just
Yeah, well, it's interesting, right? Because it opened at 10, but
yeah.
I think it's only at certain Vegas books because, like, someone
Oh,
like myself, by the time the line showed up on my sports book,
right.
it was 4.5. But
Oh, okay.
if you're physically there, I guess in Vegas, you can
You
just
could
be
have, you
right
could
at the
have,
window when the lines come out and give me that
right.
10.
If you could have bet it quick. Um, Hell, it would have been a deal at 9.
Yeah, yeah, I would have loved it at 10. Absolutely.
Yeah.
At 4.5, I still like it because I think
Mm-hmm.
Penn State is going to win the game. I think they can definitely win this game. But
Right.
yeah, we're going to find out a lot about both teams for sure. I think
Yeah.
even if Ohio State ends up blowing them out, obviously have to watch the game. But I would even say that's probably more of a knock on Penn State not being as good as we think they are
Right.
than Ohio State being, this great team because I'm still not sold on them.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about. And look, Penn State has been, in the breath of Michigan and Ohio State for a number of years now, in the Big Ten. Eventually, you gotta if you're Penn State, you gotta prove that if you're one of the big three, you gotta prove, okay, fine, I am one of the big three. I'm gonna take out, Ohio State, and then it's gonna be between me and Michigan for a championship. I think so. I think Penn State, you know, has got to. I'm going to stay away from the statement game concept, but I am going to say that if you're Penn State, you know, you got to put your money where your mouth is and beat Ohio State. Doesn't matter where you play them. You got to beat them in in Ohio or beat them in Pennsylvania. That'll be an interesting game, and I'm quite sure that the ratings on that game are going to be through the roof.
Yeah, and Penn State, they've been on a tear this year. They haven't just been winning games, though. They've been
Hmm.
doing it with style points
Yep.
because Penn State is 6-0 against the spread.
Hmm.
They were favored by 41.5 last week. They
Hmm.
beat UMass 63 nothing. Now, I know UMass is one of the worst teams in the country, but the fact of the matter is they're 6-0 against the spread. And if James Franklin is sitting down there in Penn State telling his team, all right, here's the number, you're going to cover it this week. Well, guess what? He's got an easy one this week because he's just got to tell his kids, go win the game, and you covered.
And we covered, yeah. Uh, I will say this about Coach Franklin. Someone who I like a lot. He's a very good guy. He's a great recruiter. He gets good kids at Penn State. And one of the things, if you talk to Penn State players, they love this guy. I mean, they'll walk through a wall for him. And so I think that when you don't have to motivate much if you're Penn State when you're playing Ohio State. But I do believe that the fact that Ohio State just, for whatever the reason, both the team and the fans kind of look at Penn State as like, they're on the other side of the border here. We'll dismiss them. A lot of these kids from Penn State and Ohio State have played against each other in high school, so there's a lot of that too. Much is the same, frankly, the same way that it happens when they play against Michigan. So, because there's border teams, right? So if you're going to be in West Virginia in a couple of weeks, um, from where you will be in West Virginia, it's probably maybe a half an hour to an hour drive at most to Ohio. So when you're on the line, as West Virginia is, as Pennsylvania is, um, they it's not an odd situation for you to play a high school football game against a team that's on the border from Ohio. So as I said, a lot of these kids have played each other in games in high school. So we'll see how that bears out as well. So
Yeah,
it should be
100%.
should be interesting. Should be fun from that standpoint. Let's take. Sorry. I'll give you. I got another question for you. This one specifically was asked of you, so I will keep my mouth shut. Um, and that is, please ask Amadeus, how can the U.S. men's national team turn moral victories into wins against top teams? You're up.
Moral victories. It's not. See, I don't think it's right
I
now.
never liked that. I never liked that term, moral victories. I mean, it's pretty much you either win or you
Yeah,
lose. You don't really gain any moral victory.
yeah. I'm struggling to see what you mean by moral victory, but I think
I
what
guess not
they
getting blown
mean.
out as much as they thought they would. I don't know what the.
Well, for
Uh,
example, I think they mean like at the World Cup, advancing
hmm
past the group stage, right? That that's
Well, that
that's
would
a
be a nice thing. Yes.
that's a moral victory. They only
Yeah.
won, I think, what one of the three matches,
Yeah.
but
hmm
but
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 everybody else tanked. So.
yeah, and I don't think it's a matter of like the coach or anything. Where changing these moral victories into wins. I think it's a time thing. We've seen how bad North American soccer has been for
Right.
years, and we see how much it's improved in a short period of time.
Right.
I think you just need to give this team some time because if you've noticed, most of your starting lineup on the U.S. men's national team plays for most of the players play for teams over in Europe
hmm
or
Right.
and some of these other leagues as well. But
Sure.
the good majority are playing for these top teams in England,
hmm
Italy, all across Europe. And I think you're going to see that more because the talent level is just better than the MLS.
Right.
And the more, just like how we have Canadians that if they want to make it in sports, they know, go to a college in the US and you have a much better chance of making it as a professional. Well, that's
Mhm.
what you're starting to see your American soccer players do. If I
Mhm.
want to make it as a professional in this sport, let
Mhm.
me go to where its most popular part of the world is, and
Mhm.
I'm going to play in those leagues for those teams, and you're going to learn. And as you learn, you improve. And I definitely think if you just give this team some time, they're gonna breed better players just by
Mhm.
playing overseas. And then those veterans, as those players get older, they're gonna have more experience and more tips to help the youth. And
Mhm.
that in turn is going to improve the farm system, if you want to call it that.
Right.
But it's gonna improve the youth. And as you bring more younger players onto the team, they're just naturally going to be better. So I think to answer the question, turning moral victories into wins, I think it's just a matter of time. You need to give these players time to improve. It's
Mhm.
definitely happening. Years ago we wouldn't even have mentioned the thought of U.S. or Canada
Mhm.
being in a World Cup or some kind
Mhm.
of national competition that or international competition important like that. But now it's becoming an expected thing. You expect the
Mhm.
US to be in the next World Cup. We expect
Right.
Canada to be in the next World Cup. So already we've taken that big step. It's just a matter of, now you got to improve. But really, like, if you look, it's hard to be the best because a lot
Mhm.
of the
Sure.
best teams in soccer, they have a history of it. Like Brazil is one of the best teams in the world right now. They've won
Mhm.
the most World Cups. Obviously, Italy's fallen off the map, but they still have a ton of talent on that team. They just can't seem to put it
Mhm.
together. But they're another team that's won a ton of World Cups.
Mhm.
France as a dominant power now, right? Belgium, for example, they haven't had a lot of success in the World Cup. They had their little stint where they were the best team in the world, but they didn't
Mhm.
really, capitalize. And as they get older, that's a team that's maybe not going to be as good in the future. So yeah, there's definitely select teams as we see in every sports that are just always
Right.
going to be good because of the culture they breed.
Right.
But
Germany. Yeah.
100%, Germany is another one. They're always a dominant force in the World Cup.
Mhm.
So it's just one of those things where you just it's growing and you just need to give it some time. 10
Right.
years from now, maybe US will be in a semifinal or even the finals.
Well, not that. Okay, I'm not answering the question. I'm just taking on your what you said because it was specifically not asked of me. And that is to use your illustration, right? In 1990, in the Olympics at Barcelona, David Stern, who was the commissioner of the National Basketball Association, was asked specifically at a press gathering, and that was the dream team, and they're blowing everybody out. And they said to him, what's your hope in 10 years from now? And Stern, without skipping a heartbeat, said, my goal is that we aren't the number one team in the world, that this dream team isn't the number one team in the world. And if you look at what's happened over the past 10 years in the NBA, so many players from so many different countries have come to play in the NBA and have taken what they've learned back to their native lands, and we now have a very competitive, world basketball league from a standpoint of when they play each other in international competition. It's not a given anymore that the United States is going to win, and I think that's in large part the theory of the case from Stern is the theory of the case that you just presented was play the game against the best competition in the world. It will make you better. It will make what you and your teammates can do better, and it'll elevate your country's team. And I think we've seen it now, and we've seen the fact that we're getting a bunch of European players in the NBA. and they're all, when they come over here, uh, poised and ready to play. I mean, it's not like that they have to learn what it is to do. I mean, they come here ready to play NBA basketball. So I agree with you 100%, and I'm utilizing the theory of what has we've seen in the NBA. That would be hopefully what would happen to the U.S. national team because they play competition that is, as you say, um, the best in the world. If you want to play at the best in the world, where do you go? You go to Europe to play soccer. That's where the best in the world play.
Exactly, and I'll give you another great example.
Okay.
Even with the National Football League, we're
Mhm.
starting to see it expand into Europe more.
Right. Mhm.
In turn, we're seeing a lot more, Australian
Mhm.
and those kinds of players coming over. Now, a good majority of them are kickers, but
Got to start
we're, we're,
somewhere.
we're yeah, exactly. Got to start somewhere. We're starting to see that bleed over into a bit. And so the Olympics, they just
Mhm.
announced, flag football is going to be a 2028 Olympic sport in LA.
Mhm.
USA is going to win that gold medal. They are going to absolutely dominate. Maybe Canada, because we have our own football league, will
Sure.
put up a fight. But those are going to be the only two nations that are good. You give that sport 10 years now that it's in the Olympics,
Mhm.
other countries are going to start playing the game now. And they're going to start putting together Olympic teams. And maybe they start their own domestic football leagues. And so the next time, the National Football League says, hey, we're going to go try and play a game in Spain. Well, maybe Spain has already started their own football league and there's going to be a lot more interest there. So
Mhm.
this is something where, it's just a time thing.
Right. Okay. I got asked a question, but this is kind. The question's to me, but they said we also want Amadeus to answer it too. Okay, good. Dusty Baker and Bruce Bochy are the oldest managers in Major League Baseball. Do you think that is why their teams are in the playoffs? Uh, I know Dusty. I don't know Bruce well. Maybe just to say hi. I think. Look, those two managers understand how to take a team and make it just that, a team. And making a team is a very important part of winning. The best teams, regardless of the sport, are the teams that are got each other's back. They live and breathe with each other. They go out with each other. They have fun with each other. They are teams. You cannot have, as is the case of Major League Baseball, you can't have 26 individual, you know, players there that don't give a damn about each other. Um, that's what Dusty and Bruce bring. They also bring, in both cases, more Dusty than Bruce, but you know, experience as players. I mean, Dusty Baker had the good fortune of rooming with Henry Aaron. He is an incredible fountain of knowledge of baseball. Bruce Bochy, was a pitcher, and Bruce understands pitching really well. Wasn't particularly good when he was a player, but he definitely understands pitching. So look, yeah, they're the oldest two managers in baseball, but they also have two incredibly good baseball teams. And by the way, in the case of both Bruce and Dusty, in fairness, they came in with good baseball teams. I mean, they were brought in. Dusty was brought in after the scandal in Houston. That's after the year that Houston won a world championship. So it's not like Dusty inherited a bad team, and the same could be said of Bruce. So I think what they did is what they were brought in to do, and that was to take the teams that they had and build up on them and keep them competitive and keep them in the mix. And yeah, I think that their experience in baseball certainly helps them. And I know again I know Dusty much better than I know Bruce, but I know people who played for Bruce, And so in both cases, I think when you have managers who have that, that have played the game at the highest possible level with some of the greatest players of all time, as both of those guys have, and you've managed players, that were the best of all time. I mean, Dusty had the San Francisco Giants whenever, ironically, the San Francisco Giants when Barry Bonds was there and Bruce Bochy then inherited the the same Giants after they got rid of Dusty, and took them to championship. So, yeah, the long story short, yeah, I don't think that it's a coincidence that the two best teams, certainly in the American League, um, are guided by managers who have had a great deal of experience. So, that would be my answer to that question.
Yeah, definitely. I think the experience, or I think the age helps because, as you
Mm-hmm.
said, the experience they bring with them, both at both levels, the manager and the player level. But to base it solely on that, I wouldn't
Yeah.
say so. Just
Mm-hmm.
because there's tons of older managers in the league who haven't done well. Just look at Buck Showalter over there with the team he
Mm-hmm.
has, right. So that
Sure.
was a failure, but yeah, definitely. I think it's the experience of the age helps, but more so, a majority of it is just the managing style of the two, Dusty Baker and Bruce Bochy. It's just that specific kind of managing style.
I'll give you one quick Dusty story, and there are many, but this is just one. Um, Dusty, there were, people would go to Dusty's office. The door was always open for the players to go, and frankly, members of the media as well. And one day, Dusty was, he has that toothpick that he has with him all the time, and likes to sit in on the end of the bench before the game and chat. And one day, these one of the kids, players, kids to him, well, and kids to me, frankly. But one of them was playing had played in the locker room some Jimi Hendrix, and was talking. He said to Dusty, had he ever heard Jimi Hendrix? And Dusty laughed and said, as a matter of fact, I saw him live, in 1967 at the Montreal, music festival. And for the next 20 minutes, he literally discussed, pop music, and specifically in this case, his seeing and meeting of Jimi Hendrix, which was pretty cool stuff. I mean, so it's not always the baseball stuff, right? It's the ability to talk to people on a level that keeps their mind on the game when it's important to keep it on the game, but at the same time to relate and say, okay, look, we don't have to think about baseball. When these guys are together from February all the way to in this case October, and so they're together a lot. And the fact that you can talk about music or movies or cars or whatever it is, right? It certainly helps focus you on the game when the time comes, but it doesn't force you to think about the game 24/7. And I think that is something that Dusty brings that I think makes things a little far better from a standpoint of the teams are looser. They don't have to concern themselves as much with the game outside of the game, and I think that makes it easier. And I assume that Bruce can do the same thing. Otherwise, he wouldn't be as successful as he is, because you can't be baseball 24/7. You just can't. It's not healthy in any sport, but in baseball specifically because of the fact that you're together for 7 months out of the year, and you gotta you gotta have a life other than just baseball.
Yeah,
So,
definitely. It's that relatability
right,
that
hundred
definitely
percent.
helps as well.
All right, here we go for all of us to agree or disagree. and this is the CBS Sports College Midseason All-America team. Okay, unanimous selections. There aren't many, but there are a few. Unanimous selection at quarterback. I don't think that Amedeus and I will argue this point with anybody. Michael Penix Jr. He is the quarterback of the Washington Huskies. He is a senior and he is good. So I don't think we're going to argue that point.
I was afraid you were going to say
I don't want to
Caleb
speak
for a
for.
second.
I, no, I'm not going to say that. He's there, and I got no problem with that. Running back, Jonathan Brooks of Texas. He's a sophomore. 100%. Jonathan Brooks is a beast. I got no problem with that one either. He's a good kid. Definitely an NFL running back. The other one in the running back category is Audric Estime from Notre Dame. He's a junior, so he's a young guy on that team. Again, that offense runs through him on running, and so again, I haven't seen anything that would lead me to believe that he doesn't deserve that notoriety.
Yeah,
And let's.
Estime is definitely one of the best running
Mhm.
backs in the country. I still think Blake Corum is the best running back in the country. Obviously, he
Mhm.
hasn't put up the numbers this year because he's still coming off that
Sure.
ACL injury. But yeah, 100%. When he finally gets his head right
Mhm.
from coming off that injury, he is the best running back in the country.
The one, and I would agree. I'll tell you what Brooks and Estime to me, why I think that they're worthy of this, and the same thing, from what you were just discussing. They can run inside the tackles, but they also can run on the edge. There are not necessarily a lot of backs that can do that. If you can gain, 100 yards running between the tackles, but also gain 100 yards if you're running just on the edge, and in that situation where you can break big chunks in that regard and catch passes, which both of these guys can do. Then you've got everything it takes to be a quality NFL running back, and I think that's I think again I got no beef with what they got there. Wide receivers, Luther Burden the third from Missouri. Haven't seen much of him, to be fair. So I'm gonna go. Part of this is put together by my buddy Dennis Dodd, who writes for CBS Sports, covers college. Look, I have. If Dennis and the gang at CBS thinks that Luther, you know, is is worthy of that position, I'm not gonna argue it. Again, I have not seen Missouri enough to harbor a real opinion on his spot on that team. Um, that's Malik Neighbors, LSU wide receiver. He's a bit, he's definitely a quality guy. Big body guy. Got tons of speed. He's got everything you want in a receiver on the next level, and they just literally you know clone them at LSU. So to have a wide receiver on the All American team from LSU is not a stretch. So we'll go that route on that one. Anything that you've heard about either of those two players that or someone else you think wide receiving wise you know is something. I think Mike Williams at SC probably, if Caleb wasn't having such a bad year, would probably be in there.
Yeah, definitely. I think you could put O'Dunn's in there from
That's
Washington.
yeah, that's another one.
Yeah, and that's I laugh because they keep saying Ohio State and Washington, which I would actually agree as well. But keep saying that they have the best wide receiver corps in the country, yet they're not listed. None,
Right.
none of those. It's all
None of the
SEC wide
players.
receivers. I'm hearing here, but
Right.
yeah, I think you throw O'Dunn's or even Marvin Harrison Jr. in there.
hmm No, Marvin Harrison Jr. is just a freak. I mean, he's really good. Now, this is a interesting. Broderick Bowers of Georgia is a tight end, and he was By the way, on Luther Burden, both Luther and Brock were unanimous. So that's every college writer at CBS Sports. And as I said before, I have great respect for those most of those guys. I say most because some of them I don't know, but anyway. Uh, Now Brock Bowers last season was a good reason why Georgia went as far as they did. He's a blocking guy. He's a pass catching guy. He's kind of built like a, you know, uh, like a, you know, I'm trying to remember who. He's a big guy. He's kind of, you know, Kelsey probably. I mean, he looks a lot like Kelsey in that kind of size. So he's got the ability to block, and he does that well. And he's got the ability to run, pass routes. And he's really a kind of a guy who warrants the coverage that you would put on, say, a slot receiver because he's got that kind of speed. So yeah, I'm down with that. I got no problem with Bowers from Georgia at the tight end position.
Yeah, definitely. But he just suffered a pretty serious
Yeah, he
injury.
got hurt. Yeah, that's not going to help. Okay.
Yeah.
I know nothing about linemen, so I'm going to say that right up front. So I'll just go through them real quick. Centers Jackson Powers Johnson from Oregon. Okay,
Might as
that
well
one.
just be the whole Oregon line
I was
there.
going to say you don't have to sell me on that. He's the guy who gives the ball to Mister. You know, gives it over to Mister Bo Nix. So I got no problem with Jackson Powers Johnson. Penn State. Now look, Penn State has always one thing Penn State does is they get the bigs. They get the guys who definitely can block on both sides of the ball. So Fatasmu, who is the offensive line man at Penn State, is a good reason why Penn State is where they are today. He's definitely a solid offensive tackle. Um, and then we go to Cooper Baker. I'm sorry, Cooper Beebe from Kansas State. Look again. I don't know much about this player, other than he plays for a team, Kansas State, that seems to be successful. So, good on him, and I'm sure he probably has something to do with it. And then the last one is Talise Fallujah, and he's from Oregon State. Again, you're gonna have to sell me on that one. All right, let's go defense real quick. This one is a guy I have seen, and I'm not gonna lie. He's I think he's gonna be on the next level, and that's Latu from UCLA. He is he's a freak. I mean, he's a he's an edge rusher who could probably play safety. I mean, he's just got that uh, that ability to to do everything he needs to do to tackle people. And so yeah, I'm not going to argue that piece. He's fun to watch. He's definitely fun to watch. Any thoughts on Latu or move on?
Yeah, yeah, no, I totally agree. Latu is going to be. I wouldn't be shocked if he goes top 10 in the draft when he's
No, I
eligible.
agree with you. Yeah,
He's going
Mohammed
to be
Kamara.
definitely one of the highest taken defensive players in that class.
Okay, Mohammed Kamara of Colorado State. He's graduated, so they don't even list him as a senior here. Playing obviously his last year at Colorado State. They play a high level of football at Colorado State in the Mountain West. So again, I have not seen this guy play, so I would be lying. I mean, well, technically I did see him play because I watched him play against Colorado, but beyond that, I truly don't know. So I'm going to trust that the guys at CBS know what they're talking about on this one. We got Ashton Gillette, the kid, the interior lineman from Louisville. I have seen him, and he's one of those gap fillers, uh, where it takes a lot to move him. Now he doesn't move a lot, so there's that. Um, but yeah, I think he's definitely a reason why Louisville's as successful as they are.
Oh yeah.
So we're going to linebackers now. Dallas Turner, Alabama. Again, what do you have to say about a defensive player, an Alabama linebacker under Nick Saban? You could probably put all three of their linebackers on this team, and I don't think anybody would argue with it. He coaches defense well, and he coaches linebackers even better. So the linebackers in the secondary are his baby. So I'm not going to argue with Dallas Turner on from Alabama as a linebacker. Edrin Cooper, Texas A&M. Haven't seen much of him, but again, we're about to see three linebackers in the next one, who's Danny Stutzman from Oklahoma. Danny Stutzman had a career in that game, in the Red River rivalry game against Texas. So, I only have one game to to judge him on, but if I'm judging him on that game, that was pretty damn good.
Yeah, he's been a big part of the Oklahoma defense all season.
Yep.
Something I've been saying, I've been harping on this Oklahoma defense all
Yep.
year, that they are the real deal. And yeah, no problems with those. Obviously, the Alabama's offense may be struggling this year, but the defense, just like Oklahoma, that
Right.
defense is legit over in Alabama. So
Hmm.
100%, no complaints with those linebackers.
Miles Jones. Miles Jones from Duke at corner. Miles Jones is a lockdown corner. There's no question about that. And he's a very athletic kid. And so, look, when we talk about secondary, right, we could probably knock out a list of 20 guys who are worthy of that spot. So, Miles Jones, again, I haven't seen a lot of Duke, but what I've seen of Duke, he has taken the best receiver on the team and has, you know, been money when the time has come. Ricardo Hallman of Wisconsin, and I don't know anything about Wisconsin. I have not seen them play, so I can't really offer a judgment there.
Let's just say there shouldn't be any Wisconsin players on this.
I
On this
wanted to
team.
be polite in case we had a Wisconsin fan, but yeah, I'm sure he's good, but I
Their
haven't seen him.
defense isn't even that good, which is why it surprised me. Maybe they have one
Well,
solid cornerback there,
one
but
one guy is saving the bacon, right? Um,
yeah, definitely, it's not a guy that can carry the team. That's for sure.
no, Malachi Sparks from Georgia. Malachi Sparks as a freshman was good. He's a sophomore now, and here's the secret. He's still good. So he's he could play. You know what? He's one of those guys that's a tweener. He could play. He's big enough to play safety, so he doesn't really have to play corner. Like, you could play him as safety. I imagine they won't on the next level, but he's an interesting cat. There's no question about that. Now here's my favorite name, and I'm thinking he should be on on the roster just because of his name. And I don't. I imagine. I'm hoping that his parents did not actually name him this, but it's quite possible that they did. And this is the corner, and his name is Kool-Aid McKinstry from Alabama. I mean, I've seen him play. He's good, but to be honest, I don't. I'm hoping that his first name really isn't Kool Aid, but I thought it was his nickname, and usually they don't list the nicknames down here, but so if his given name is Kool Aid, McKinstry, God love him and the family. They got a sense of humor, and that's for
Yeah,
damn sure.
you know what, Jim? It wouldn't shock me because he's not the first brand name I've heard. Tell me, do you know who Johannes Tyler is?
No, I don't.
Oh, Johannes Tyler. He's still an active player in college football. I think he was on Rutgers like
Okay,
2 years ago, but he's transferred. I forget what team he's on, but yes, his name is Yo apostrophe the brand Hines, and his last name Tyler. So
okay.
100%. If you're telling me this
Hey,
guy's name is Kool Aid McHistory, I believe it.
you know what? Why not, right? What the hell? All right. Jalen Simpson, Auburn. Auburn's. I don't know much about, from an Auburn. I've seen them play. I don't recall, the name Simpson being called a lot.
Yeah,
But
they don't have a good defense. Maybe
yeah,
he's there because he had a good game against Georgia
yeah.
when they almost beat them. But like
Right.
other than that,
When Dennis
Auburn
Dodd
has
was yeah, when Dennis Dodd was at the game, maybe I'll have to text
yeah.
Dennis and say, who's this guy and why are we talking about him? Place
I'm actually
kicker.
disappointed because they totally overlooked with the defensive lineman. They totally overlooked James Madison just because James Madison is averaging something like 42 rushing yards allowed per
Whoa.
game. So yeah, James Madison by far has one of the best run defenses in the
Hmm.
country, and I'm shocked that they didn't have like a nose tackle in there or something, some kind
Yeah,
of plug up guy because their run defense is unbelievable.
that's pretty cool. This guy is definitely a kicker on the next level. It's Will Richard of Alabama. He's a graduate student. He will be a place kicker for somebody. He's money and has been put in a number of positions this season, which normally Alabama doesn't have to worry about. I mean, let's be honest. Will Richard's main goal in the past couple years that he's played for Alabama has been kicking the ball, for extra points. That's not the case, with this Alabama version of the team. He does have to make field goals for them to win, and he's been money from that standpoint.
Yeah,
Um,
the kicker in college football is something that baffles my mind, Jim.
hmm
Just because we see it all the time, where like a lot of these college teams can barely kick a field goal from the
right,
30-yard line, and then when you get to NFL, you're almost kicking from midfield, basically.
right.
But it's just something I don't understand because if you practice long enough, and this is coming from somebody who used to play rugby and was
hmm
terrible at kicking when I first started, and I
hmm
learned how to do the drop kick very
Uh huh.
well and very accurate. So
hmm
kicking, I feel, is something where if you just put some time into it and really
hmm
practice, it's got to be the easiest position to make it in the NFL. Just because all as long as you're accurate and can kick like 60 yards plus, what NFL team wouldn't want you? So I
hmm
don't understand why there's not better kickers at the college football level because just speaking from my own terms, that would be the position I would say, well, hey, if I can master kicking the football through the field goal and we can kick 60-yard field goals, who wouldn't want to draft me?
Well, there's also something else here, and there is a difference between kicking in college and kicking in the NFL. The
Hash
difference,
marks.
what's that?
The hash
The
marks.
hash marks are definitely different. Um, the hash marks in college are 17 yards from the actual sideline. So when you're really not kicking, if you're kicking off the left hash or the right hash, you're not kicking anywhere near the middle of the field. Okay, you move those hash marks another 3 feet in the NFL. So you're even off a hash mark, you're closer in the NFL to kicking through the uprights than you are in college. The other thing, which should actually help you be better, is you're allowed to kick off of a tee, and the what they do is the holder place the tee down, and then when the ball is snapped, they'll place it on the tee. So you're not kicking off the turf. So let's say you can't use the excuse that the turf is messy or it's a rainy situation. That you can say, I guess, with your plant foot is a problem, but you're kicking off of something that literally is 2 inches higher than the ground. So you've got an advantage right from the jump on that. So I don't I see a lot of kids who can kick in college and kick well, but when they get to the pros, because they take away that tee, and you don't have to use the tee. Just for the record, you don't have to do it, but a lot of them do. You know, they can't do it because they've kicked off a tee, and it's a lot different when you're kicking off the ground. So we'll see. But anyway,
As a
there's
soccer guy, Jim, I want to see better kicking in college football.
I
That's
hey
my one request.
I look as somebody who has watched guys blow this thing all over the place. I'm with you on that. I mean, how many games have been lost by guys plunking the goalpost on the right or the goalpost on the left, or missing it totally. In college is it's quite a bit. Punter's Tony Taylor, who's from Iowa. Never saw the kid punt. Can't help you there.
Well, he's from Iowa, so he's got to be phenomenal. He's punting like 20
Right.
times a
He's
game.
probably he got his leg, his traction. He's probably from Australia. Anyway, kick returner Rashad Smith, Miami. Okay, I'll give if you say so.
I feel like kick returners just like throw your fastest player on the field back
Yeah,
there
and
as long
pray
as
to
they
God that
catch
he
the
can
ball.
catch.
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? Well, that's what I mean, right? You're not going to throw your defensive back out there, but you
Right.
just take your fastest wide receiver and throw him out there.
Right.
That's your kick return.
In return, it's like Ines Smith from Texas A&M is a punt returner and the all-purpose returner because I guess you have to have
Because
one.
punt return and kick return is pretty much the same thing. So
You would think,
when
yeah.
you're both, you're just the all-purpose guy.
I guess Ashton Gentry of Boise State. Well, you know what? I'm happy for Boise because Boise got a player on the All-American team. So you know what? Good on him. But yeah, you definitely. I mean, in college, how many times do you actually return a kickoff? I mean,
No, exactly, right?
you stand there and watch it go over your head.
Into the back of the
Yeah.
end zone.
The other thing is, in college, if you're inside the 10-yard line, okay, you can call a fair catch, and it gets put out to the 25-yard line or 30-yard line. And I forgot that they had changed that rule a couple of years ago, and I see this guy flagging his hand at about the 3-yard line. I'm thinking, dude, that ball's gonna go. Just let it go. And then I realized, oh yeah, that's right. They changed the rule because I thought, pin yourself back at the 3-yard line. You nuts. So
Well, they changed it in the NFL too because there was that guy on the weekend where he let the ball go and it kind of like bounced on the 1-yard line and then like it landed
then
like
rolled
right on
into the
line.
end zone.
And,
Yeah.
and he wasn't sure, so he picked it up after he called the fair catch and started
Oh.
running with it because he wasn't sure if it was a touchback. And then afterwards, the refs was like, "It's a touchback. It touched the end zone anyway, so it didn't matter." But
There you go.
Yeah, the commentators were talking about how he could have just left the ball because even if he fair catches it at the 1, it's at the 25 now or whatever.
Well, Car 49 talk, CarCast 49 talk. We're doing fine today, buddy, and we are fans of the silver and red. So
Well, I'm a Cardinals fan. Okay,
No,
not
I'm
a
just-
fan of
I'm-
the 49ers.
let
I can
me-
recognize the best team when I see it.
let me qualify that. We respect the 49ers. Let me use that as the qualifier. We respect the 49ers. We respect Coach Shanahan and what he's been able to do out there, and all good things for Coach Shanahan and his team out there because they're playing very, very well. It's hard to believe that Shanahan and the coach at the Rams. I mean, just give me a chance to get a sip here. Coached together on the Washington football team. That was pretty interesting group of guys at the same time at the same place. But all working under Kyle's dad, Mike Shanahan. Quick side note: it was Mike Shanahan who, as a graduate assistant at the University of Florida, told Chris Collinsworth that his career would be best served as a wide receiver, even though he was the rated the best quarterback in college. I'm sorry, in high school when coming out of Titusville Astronaut, and it was Shanahan who convinced him to become a wide receiver. And at the time, the reason for that was of his speed and his ability to catch the ball. And the Gators didn't. He didn't want to put him at quarterback because he was afraid to get killed. They didn't have a good offensive line. So, say all you want, Chris Collinsworth probably wouldn't have been a very good quarterback and probably wouldn't have had the career he's had as a commentator had he not been schooled by Mr. Shanahan to consider playing a wide receiver role as opposed to playing quarterback. So there you go. I'm nothing if not a fountain of useless knowledge. But that's there you go, folks. That in the Ohio State University Stadium is still a dormitory. Those are your nuggets for the day. Yeah, those are your nuggets for the day. And God help you if that's enlightening to you. Anyway, it's come to that time of the show when we have our plugs, and my friend, it is to you. Go ahead and go for it.
Yeah, make sure you check out my premium plays at bigal.com, picadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. I got a play up for the college football tonight. I have all my college football up for the midweek games, and I even have an NFL up for Thursday. So go check that out, and there'll be
Whoa.
plenty more for the weekend.
Hey, who's playing tonight in college football? I forgot that. I should have looked.
Oh yeah, there's 3 games, so 2 Conference
Whoa.
USA games, and 1 Sun Belt game. The Sun Belt is Southern Miss and South Alabama.
Okay.
The 2 Conference USA games are Middle Tennessee versus Liberty and Western Kentucky versus Jacksonville State.
Liberty has been playing well.
Yeah.
So they that's a school who probably, if it were not for their very heavily religious bent, would likely be in the American, I would think. But I mean they're a good little team down there, and they get some solid players. So there you go. Good on Liberty. All right, folks. Enjoy the games tonight. You got baseball, you got college football, you got a little bit of everything tonight. So enjoy. You got hockey, basketball. It's all there. And Amadeus and I will be back tomorrow, and we'll have a chance to chat about all this fun stuff. And then on a Wednesday, we'll have some plenty of soccer to get moving with. Okay. So y'all have a good day, and we'll catch you tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.